And on that note, which one of our friends, Kemper, who I show, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen in my reviews and from Airbender and from the Beach Trip, he was looking forward to having Johnny Depp play the Riddler, which was a massive rumor going on for months, and it is still going around that he's going to play the Riddler. And people, I'm telling you right now, Johnny Depp will not be the Riddler.
He did release that recently, that Johnny Depp would not be the Riddler. I have to say, very upset about that. You know, my biggest thing with Batman and with Nolan was that Nolan started off exactly where he should have. He started off with Batman as a warrior, training to be what he was going to become. And then he brought it into Batman as a cop, training as to what he was.
Yes.
The next step for Batman in the comics is that Batman is the world's greatest detective.
Yes.
And what better character to put in than the Riddler?
Yeah.
Now, there are other characters, obviously. But just because it's the obvious choice doesn't make it the wrong choice.
Yeah.
Now, they've decided to go a different way with the detective, and they decided to cast Tom Hardy. Now, everybody thought that Tom Hardy, which those of you who don't know who that is, if you've seen Inception, he's the hot British guy. Everybody thought that he was going to play Hugo Strange, who is the director of Arkham.
Yeah.
And they thought that it would have something to do with him. Essentially, they thought that Christopher Nolan was going to do a movie version of the Arkham Asylum sequel game.
Which I think would be very cool.
It would, but I think that it would have the potential to become X3, where they were pulling stories from too many different places into one movie.
Now, I mentioned this before. We were talking about villains for Dark Knight Rises. Mm-hmm. I personally wanted to see Zsasz. I've told you this before. Mm-hmm. Now, there's not a whole lot you can do with Zsasz, but they do reference him a little bit in Batman Begins.
Yes.
And I wanted to see him at least come up at a later point, because he was one of my favorite villains from the Batman series.
We could have seen an Arkham Break, Zsasz coming out and killing people, and it really wouldn't have been much more than the Scarecrow in the beginning of the second movie.
Yeah.
30 seconds of Zsasz killing somebody and carving it into his skin, and we move on. Now, discussing who Tom Hardy was rumored to play, Tom Hardy has been confirmed to play Bane.
Yeah.
Now, what we were saying prior to doing this review, Mike and I were discussing, was that Christopher Nolan doesn't like to use a lot of CGI, and Mike mentioned it earlier in the review. I don't understand how you're going to make Tom Hardy Bane without some. Even in the comics, he's huge.
For those people who saw the movie Batman and Robin, Bane was destroyed in that movie. Any concept of what Bane should have been from the comic books was raped in that movie.
In the comics, Bane is just shy of a genius.
He is.
He is a criminal mastermind.
Yeah.
He's the next best thing after the Riddler.
Yeah.
If there's somebody who's going to mess with Batman, it's going to be him.
Yes. He has, in fact, I would say one step over the Riddler in that he can go toe-to-toe with Batman as far as physical prowess.
Not only that, but he's put in the movie because he is the one character who's taken Batman down.
Yes, he is.
Which
when I was a kid, was the one series I had to buy right away.
Oh, absolutely.
I went out and bought the Nightfall series when I heard that was coming out, and I have all 19 still in my closet of the Nightfall series.
You're still in your closet, Mike.
I don't... Yep, alright.
Still in the closet reading them.
Oh, God. To this day, the Nightfall series is one of my favorite Batman series.
See, now that's not one I've ever been told to read. The ones I've been told to read have been the Killing Joke and the Joker and the Riddler stories. But I do have to look into this story. The theory behind the third movie that I've been getting from my comic sources since yesterday afternoon, hearing about this, have been that in the comics, Bane essentially breaks Bruce's spine.
Yes.
He's left paraplegic.
Yes.
And is taken over by Azrael?
Yes. Azrael, for a little bit, becomes Batman, a guy, Gene Paul.
Okay.
Gene Paul becomes the Batman for a little over 30, 40 comics.
Okay.
And
for loses his mind.
Yeah, loses his mind because he believes he's this completely righteous guy and is not afraid to kill people, which is something, of course, Bruce never does. So, at which point, somehow Bruce becomes mobile again. He's able to be no longer a paraplegic. He eats a lot of stem cells. I don't know what he does.
Comic book death.
Yeah, it's okay. I didn't read past the Nightfall series. I kind of assumed he'd always come back in some fashion like that. But I did read the final one at Night Ends, which is where he actually ousts Azrael, and it is a very good climax from what they do with that.
The theory behind this movie is that probably there obviously there won't be Azrael because that's too much to fit into the conclusion of Chris Nolan's movies. But we think that Bane will beat Batman probably the beginning or midway through the movie. Now, whether he's hired by the mob or he's hired by the police, who are now on a manhunt for Batman, remain to be seen. Selena Kyle will offer the new love interest to bring Bruce back from losing Rachel, but we think that she will obviously play a part in aiding him against Bane in the end, as she did in aiding him against the Penguin in the second movie.
Yes, which, you can say what you want about the second movie. I liked it as a kid. I still kind of like it now as an adult.
Tim Burton movies were the best.
Because, well, the first movie, the first Batman, is still, to this day, a good movie. Because it was the first attempt ever of someone trying to do a serious Batman movie.
Well, it was cool that when Heath Ledger came in, everybody was scared because he wasn't the Jack Nicholson Joker.
Yes.
But they very much played off the polar opposite versions of the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
There was the Bang Flag Joker.
Yeah.
And the Why So Serious Joker.
Yeah.
And now that's what we have.
We have two.
Yeah.
Now, it's
although I was upset that we didn't have any bang flags in that movie.
Yeah. One bang flag.
That's all we needed.
My thing is, and this was another rumor, again, it's flying out because there's so many rumors flying out Christopher Nolan now, because he never confirms or denies anything unless it's really extreme now.
Right.
I had heard rumors coming out of Austin that they were going to recast the Joker as Joseph Gordon-Levitt, because he did a phenomenal job in Inception, which I believe you agree with.
I do.
Okay, and some people could see him taking over the role as the Joker.
There's only been one person that I thought they could take on the role as the Joker, and I know I'm going to take backlash for this, but it's Brad Pitt. And here's why. If you've ever seen the movie Burn After Reading.
Yes. Yeah.
Burn After Reading. He's on the phone,
mm-hmm.
and he calls a guy, and I don't remember the character's name that he's referring to, but the voice he uses when he continuously asks his character's name, I actually was in the other room, and I thought it was the Joker. Just the
I'll have to go back and look at that. I remember the movie. I didn't think that when I saw the movie.
Pay attention to that one scene, and I mean, he has done hundreds of roles. Obviously, that's an exaggeration, but he's done dozens of roles in different personalities.
Yeah.
And I really think that he could do it.
I think that any reprisal of the Joker will not be Heath Ledger's Joker. I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt will do a phenomenal job, but it will be Joseph Gordon-Levitt's Joker.
I don't think they should touch the Joker again.
Yeah, Brad Pitt could do a phenomenal job as the Joker, but it would be Brad Pitt's Joker.
It would.
What any fanboy wants to see, they want to see that Joker come back to life. He's never coming back.
No.
We have one movie to remember that Joker by,
right. And
that's going to be it. And sadly, no matter how good a cast member you get to reprise that role, he's not going to be the same.
And there were rumors that after Ledger's unfortunate demise, that they would not attempt to bring him back, but that they would use his voice in a sequel,
mm-hmm.
use it as like a flashback to drive somebody in Arkham insane and have them be the villain, whether that be the Riddler or the Mad Hatter or Quinn.
Or what I want to see. I wanted to see Harley Quinn. Of all the villains in this, if there was one I thought had a shot of coming up at some point, I thought it was going to be Harley Quinn.
I thought she was probably one of the last.
Really?
Only because Nolan's villains have been primarily male.
Yes.
Not that a female villain is a bad idea, but making the primary villains all male and then throwing in a female villain in the conclusion, I thought would have been risky.
Mm-hmm.
Especially given the performance that the Joker played.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it would have been risky. And I don't know if any of the listeners have seen the show Birds of Prey.
I haven't.
It's actually a halfway decent show. Harley Quinn is outstanding, but by the same token, it's a primarily female cast.
Mm-hmm.
All of the heroes are female, even all except for one of the guest star heroes are female, and she is the primary villain.
Okay.
But if they were to do her in a Christopher Nolan movie, it would have to be the way they do her.
Yeah.
She is the main character's shrink. She drives her insane.
Mm-hmm.
She drives the city insane. The conclusion of that show, though rushed, was very well done. But I don't know that they could have done Harley without a Joker.
I just I felt as though if you weren't going to do the Joker, you had to pay some sort of homage to him, and I thought Harley Quinn would have been the best way to do that. Now, obviously, that's obviously not going to occur now with Selena Kyle coming in.
I thought that they could have done the Mad Hatter. And Kemper and I have joked that if they were going to do the Mad Hatter, that they should have Johnny Depp come back as the Mad Hatter.
That'd be interesting.
Just come back as the Alice in Wonderland Mad Hatter.
You know,
just be a big smartass for the whole
movie. That wouldn't be bad. Then start breakdancing randomly.
Just start breakdancing randomly. In the middle of a fight, he'd say, "Wait! It's tea time."
Oh yeah, okay.
Batman would be like, "What?" Just like Jack Nicholson's, you wouldn't hit a man in glasses, would you?
No.
Absolutely would. So I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to touch on, but those were all the notes that I had.
The one thing I was gonna say is, speaking of obscure Batman villains, they could have gone down so many routes with this that I'm glad Christopher Nolan didn't go down, because even though they're realistic villains, you don't want to do them just because they would probably be laughable. Like, for example, Ventriloquist with Scarface. Anyone could have gone down that road, and because you just have a guy who talks to himself, not that hard to do. Some guy who is so maniacally insane that he has to oust himself by using a puppet. Okay,
they didn't do any of the CGI characters like Freeze or Poison Ivy.
Yes, I agree. Now, when I made the off joke when Anne Hathaway had been cast as Catwoman, my initial reaction was, "Why don't you go ahead and make Mandy Moore Harley Quinn, or better yet, why don't you make Miley Cyrus Poison Ivy?"
Mandy Moore is a great actress. She couldn't be a supervillain, but she's a great actress. I feel like she acts better than she sings. I'm still waiting for us to offer up Miley Cyrus for a good harvest. You had made a comment months ago when we were discussing the potential Batman villains that you wanted to see the Red Hood.
Yes.
Because of how he affects Batman.
Yes.
But you couldn't really do a Red Hood without bringing in a Robin. Because the whole reason that the Red Hood really affects Batman, or at least that Red Hood, because the Red Hood really isn't a person so much as a title that you take on temporarily until you build a name. Without a Robin, without a Dick Grayson, you don't get a chance to move on to a Jason Todd. You don't get a chance to move on to the Red Hood that actually affects him.
This is true. Yes.
And really, in the comic books, it's revealed that the Joker started as the Red Hood, or a Red Hood.
Yes.
Which in the movies, we don't know. We have no idea. He gives us, 3 potential origins, and we never know.
Well, 2 potential. He kind of hints at a third, but really 2 potential origins.
He got hit the last time.
Yeah, he got punched the last time. I never found out what the third one was. I was expecting him to come around and say, like, I was raised in the circus. The ringmaster touched me at night. Something along those lines.
I fell into a vat of acid because you touched yourself in the.
Yeah, there you go. They've been brought up watching Batman the Animated Series too much and just watching Batman beat the shit out of people.
Yeah, better than being brought up watching the Adam West version.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Get the bat shark repellent.
It's airing on loop on one of the TVs at work. It's just Batman running around with his bomb over his head, and I'm like, someone pushing a baby, and he's like, "No, I can't run in that direction."
That scene in itself makes me crack up every time. Just the comical bomb over the head,
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Oh no, Batman got blown up. No, I threw it into the river and I hid behind these metal pipes. Good job, Bruce.
Yeah.
Detective work at its best.
So, alright. So, Paul is going to tend to Appa. Thank you guys for listening. And Appa is currently punching Paul. And he's burping at the dog.
He burped at me first.
Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us, and we'll let you know what we think of the movies when they're released. Have a good night, and take care.